Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made my new boyfriend. It was really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. Tutorial is a generous word for this. I tried really hard to film as much as I could, but it took a lot of finagling and you'll just have to wait and see. Before I get into the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for new videos every week. Kinda sometimes, most of the time. Every like is one crunchy in this little boy's bowl. He's desperate to get away from me. Thanks so much for watching and let's get right into the video.
It all starts out with one of my janky templates that I will link below, the image that I used, as well as all the materials in this video. I made myself a cardstock template so I don't muddy up my original, and I'm cutting out some vanilla cake. I'm smearing on a little bit of buttercream and then adding on just the face layer of cake. I did the same thing for the collar portion, though it didn't come up quite as high as the face. This is just going to bring those pieces forward and make it easier when I carve. With my sharp little paring knife, I'm rounding out all the edges, so the face, the hair, his body. And then I marked out the little tuft at the top of his head. I added another little piece on top of the tuft because I want that to be brought forward with the face. Using my template, I marked in where his arms would sit against the body as well as the eyes. I'm using white chocolate ganache to cover the whole thing, and then I let this set up before I added any modeling chocolate. Once my ganache was firm, I just went back in and marked out where the eyes, the nose, and the mouth is going to sit. You can see I also did indent the mouth a little bit to make room for his teeth. I added a little nubbin of modeling chocolate for the nose and then the eyebrow area as well, and just blended those up into the top of the cake so the edges weren't super harsh. I rolled out my modeling chocolate between two pieces of parchment paper so it wouldn't stick to my work surface, and then draped that over the face. I smoothed it down around the features, not a big deal if it cracks like it did on the eye, I'm just going to cover that later. And then I trimmed away the excess around the face using my X-Acto knife. I'm adding in the eyeballs, and then this is where it gets kind of tricky to show you exactly what I did because I'm just trying to lay down the map of the face. So the smile lines, the cheekbone, I go in and fix stuff and tweak stuff constantly. So if it doesn't look exactly the same as when you last saw it, it's just because I spent about 10 hours off camera nitpicking everything. I added around the eyes, built up the eyebrows a little bit more, the cheeks, the nose, tried to shape the nostrils. I'm using my soft fondant tools for this because it just works like a charm to blend it out. I'm going to link those down below. Once I had everything roughly where I wanted it to go, I just took the time to smooth out the features just so I could really see what the face was looking like. I used my fingers and my modeling tools, and a little bit of water helps to rub them out as well. Now I'm going to start adding the lines in the face, so the creases around the eye, the furrowed bit in the brow, the eyebrows, all his little weird cracks on his forehead. Some texture, people. I've got some orange modeling chocolate for his hair, and I'm just scoring in some lines using my fondant tool. I added a couple extra pieces against the head and onto the board and just blended those in. He has a pretty glorious widow's peak, so I just used my template to make sure I cut that out. I covered the chest in 2 pieces just so I could make sure that I had that seam down the middle like a shirt would. And then just worked to define the arm and his big, luxurious puffy puff sleeves. His outfit is really haggard and wrinkly looking from, like hanging out in the sewers. So I just added in some extra texture lines and crumpled up some parchment paper and pressed that into my modeling chocolate and then scored in the stripe pattern. So my camera decided to be a butthead and die while I was filming the ruffle part. So I just cut out strips of fondant and then thinned the edges with my balling tool, and then scored in some lines and just tore off little bits and pieces here and there to make it look like really worn fabric. I chose fondant for this because it just has more elasticity than modeling chocolate, and it allowed me to bend it and wave it. You can see here I'm like crimping it up as I go along. I just brushed the ganache with a little bit of water and then the bottom of each ruffle as I added it. I added 2 pieces of modeling chocolate on either side for his ears and just used my fondant tools to give it a little more definition, and added a piece of that orange modeling chocolate on the very tips of the ears just to make it look like they're tucked behind. I added 2 balls of red fondant for the pom-poms, and then using some designated cake scissors, I just snipped into them to make them look a little fuzzy. So this is what I was looking at when I was all done with the sculpting. I added 2 circles of yellow fondant into each eyeball, and I tucked them right up against the top, so it really enhanced the looking through his eyebrows thing. I painted the whole thing yellow and then started to build up the color with coppers and black, concentrating the darkest color on the outer part of that iris and then dragging it in slightly. I used white and pale yellow just to brighten up around the pupil. I'm going to have all the colors that I used to paint him listed down below. I lined his waterline with some pink, and I basically just started to add layer upon layer of black. I wanted it to be really dark right around underneath, and then as it worked its way down, I just kind of stippled it on to blow it out a bit and settled the black into all the creases. I stenciled in his eyebrows and then mixed some black with some food grade alcohol and brushed it over the whole forehead so it would settle in all those fine lines and I didn't have to brush them in individually, and then I wiped it away. I used yellow for his teeth, and then to darken it I used brown and black. I really wanted to have those 2 front teeth. He's got like weird rabbit snaggly teeth, so I brought those forward just by darkening the teeth on either side. I added some more shading around his mouth, the smile lines, his nostril, his ears, and then marked in where the red was going to be going down his face. Marking it out was critical because it's really tricky to get the red off if you make a mistake. So once I was happy with the placement, I started a really faint line first and then went over it and brought it down to the lips and the big juicy bottom lip. And I also added some pink and some brown towards the mouth, so you can see I have a nice gradient going on. I painted his nose and then moved on to the hair, just brushed it over with a darker orange color. Now to move on to some shading, I took some black color dust and went over basically his whole outfit. I also forgot to mention that I tucked a couple pieces of paper towel into his frills and let the fondant dry and then pulled them out, so it was a little more like oomphy instead of flat and wilty. I added some more shading around the ears and the jawline, anywhere I thought I could use some more depth, and I also darkened the teeth because they just weren't doing it for me. They weren't chipmunky, rabbity enough. You could continue just to dust everything by hand, but I did grab my airbrush machine and really defined around his head and that tuft of hair, and it gave like a nice soft grunge to the clothing that I just wasn't getting using my brush. With some bright orange, I highlighted the hair, just streaked through it, and I also just highlighted the 2 front teeth so they popped out more. Once I was done obsessing over him and I was happy, I added some white fondant to my board. I just patched it together and fit it around him, and then with my airbrush machine I grabbed some red and some black and just created this gradient. I'm still learning with the airbrush, so it wasn't like seamlessly smooth, but I was okay with it. And this was the final result, guys. I am so pleased with how he turned out. Humany / realistic type faces are really daunting for me. I know he's not perfect, but I'm so pleased. I hope this tutorial is helpful for you, and it's really kicking off the old Halloween spirit, if I do say so myself. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe because do I have some more Halloween videos coming your way. I will see you in the next one, guys.